episode 451 of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I will be talking about tonight's episodes of Impact Wrestling on Access TV and Ring of Honor Wrestling on Honor Club. Right here, right now, 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Hello, Wrestling Fanatics. Yep, it's time for another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. I am your host, Lance Brock. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. And tonight, we're going to be talking about Impact Wrestling and Ring of Honor Wrestling on Honor Club for this week. But first, once again, I just want to apologize for having a later episode. Well, not later, but instead of last night, I did the Dynamite episode this morning. It was a little shorter than the Dynamite recap usually is. Sorry for that, but on this episode tonight of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, let's get started discussing tonight's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, featuring the fallout from this past weekend's Slammiversary pay-per-view, which was once again in Windsor, Ontario, Canada, at the St. Clair College Sportsplex. Our commentators tonight, Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywalt. We start things off with the Impact Wrestling president, Scott D'Amore, who, along with Eric Young, who I guess is staying in Impact Wrestling for now, in that tag team match against Bully Ray and Diener, he thanks the Windsor crowd for being there and at Slammiversary last Saturday night. And he is interrupted by the Good Hands, Jason Hatch and John Schuyler. And then this leads to a tag team match, the Good Hands taking on Sami Callihan and Rich Swann to start our in-ring action on Impact Wrestling tonight. And it is Swann and Callihan getting the win. And next up, after making his return last Saturday in Ultimate X, Jake Something is victorious against Kevin Knight. Pretty good match here. And once again, I forgot the new rating system. The first match, I'd say probably 3 out of 5 suplexes. The tag match, and then Jake Something and Kevin Knight, not a bad match. I'd also have to go with 3.5 out of 5 ring bells, or 3 ring bells. Maybe not 3.5, but maybe 3 ring bells out of 5. And next up, Courtney Rush defeats Savannah Evans. I'd probably, not a bad match, but I'd say 2.5 out of 5 ring bells for this one. And Dirty Dango defeats Santino Marella. I'd say 3 out of 5 ring bells. And Subculture, the new Impact World Tag Team Champions, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, along with Danny Luna, take on ABC in a match for the titles, and they defeat Ace Austin and Chris Bay to retain. I was a little disappointed at first, Slammiversary, seeing ABC lose the tag team titles. I was hoping for a long title run for this tag team. And yes, I know they have had the titles for quite a while, but would have been nice to see them hold on to them for a little longer. But Subculture, though, gotta admit, they are definitely a very talented tag team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have a pretty long run with these tag team titles. And the main event segment of Impact Wrestling tonight, once again, there are some few problems with Access TV. I talked about this on 360 Wrestling Fanatic last Thursday night. And they weren't quite as bad as last week, but what happened last week, in case you missed it, was for about the last 20 minutes or so, the screen ended up going blank. It said, "We'll be right back," but never came on. And this week, it wasn't quite as long, but when they came back for the main event segment with the returning Josh Alexander, who came back at Slammiversary, there was the video, the picture was fine, but there was no sound. And then Alex Shelley, the Impact World Champion, came out, and I'm guessing Josh Alexander challenged Shelley for the championship since he never lost the title. And then they are interrupted by Lio Rush. By reading his lips, it looked like he said something about option C. And we see Kushida, the winner of the Ultimate X, come out with the X, who won an X Division title shot. And then at this time, Bully Ray comes out, and right now the sound comes back on, and then as Bully Ray is making his way out, it goes back a few seconds or so to where Kushida says something on the mic, and then Bully Ray starts to come out again, and then it cuts off, goes to a commercial for the last couple minutes of the hour, and then it goes right into New Japan Pro Wrestling. So did not see the end, did not see what Bully Ray had to say. I'll have to check out the results to see what happened there. And that's the thing. I don't know if this is just sling or if this is anywhere you're watching on Access TV, if these problems happened. But like I said, 2 weeks in a row now, we're at the end of Impact. There's a little bit of problems. Let me know in the comment section, either on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever website or app you're listening to on, if you had these same problems at the end of Impact the last couple weeks. Because I don't know if it's just Sling, which I watch on, or if it's for the cable, satellite, whichever you watch. But now let's go over to Honor Club and talk about this week's episode of Ring of Honor Wrestling. This is the go-home show before tomorrow night's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view, which we found out today that instead of Bleacher Report, it will be available to purchase for the first time on Honor Club, actually. And I'll talk more about that after I finish the recap of this week's episode. I'll give my thoughts on that. But let's get right into this episode. We see highlights of the press conference with Tony Khan talking about the Pure Wrestling Championship match. Daniel Garcia challenging the champion Tatsuyori Shibata for the Pure title tomorrow night. And speaking of Daniel Garcia, he is in action in our opening contest tonight, defeating Jason Geiger. And next up, women's action up next. Trish Adora take on Utami Hayatashi Shida. And Utami Hayatashi Shida gets the win here against Trish Adora. And once again, I forgot my rating system. I have to get used to that. Daniel Garcia and Jason Geiger, not a bad match at all. I'd say 3 out of 5 ring bells. And this women's match, very good, pretty good match here actually. Have to say maybe 3.5 out of 5 ring bells. And Shane Taylor versus Dalton Castle is next. The winner will receive a shot at the Ring of Honor World Television Championship against Samoa Joe at Death Before Dishonor. This one, another pretty good match here. I'd say, again, 3.5 out of 5 ring bells. Dalton Castle getting the win. He will face Samoa Joe tomorrow night. And Josh Woods defeats James Stone. I'd say 2.5 out of 5 ring bells. And Athena, the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, who will be taking on Willow Nightingale for that championship tomorrow night at DBD, is in action against Nikita and gets the win. I'd say 2.5 out of ring bells, or 2.5 out of 5 ring bells. And the Righteous defeat the Boys. It was Stu Grayson in their corner. Say 2.5 out of 5 ring bells again for that one. And speaking of the Righteous and Stu Grayson, they will be taking on Dark Order, Evil Uno, John Silver, and Alex Reynolds in a fight without honor tomorrow night at Death Before Dishonor. And Legit Layla Hirsch defeats Nicole Matthews. I'll give this one 2.5 out of 5 ring bells. Was a pretty good match. I wouldn't say anything real spectacular though. And then in the main event of Ring of Honor Wrestling this week, the Kingdom take on the team of the Bollywood Boys and Action Andretti and Darius Martin. Get the win in this one to get some momentum going into the 4-way match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships tomorrow night. And that's tonight's episode of Ring of Honor on Honor Club. So overall, this Thursday night of pro wrestling, Impact and Ring of Honor, I thought both shows were pretty good. Had some good wrestling on each show, and the main event, I don't think I mentioned, but I'd say 3 out of 5 ring bells. And overall, both good matches or shows. And before I forget, I was going to talk about the Ring of Honor pay-per-view situation. We found out today that instead of Bleacher Report, and I'm guessing the other international websites too, maybe, that Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor will be airing on Honor Club. And I just want to say, though, my thoughts on this is I don't really have a problem with them showing the pay-per-views on Honor Club, but I think if they're going to do that, though, that they should do a special for the Honor Club subscribers where on traditional pay-per-view it costs $39.99, and then they could have a special for Honor Club, maybe costs $24.99 or $19.99, maybe go half off. But I'd say that would might help a little bit, get some more subscribers for Honor Club, where, yes, they have the pay-per-views on there, and you have to pay, but you get them for a cheaper price than you would ordering them on traditional pay-per-view. I think that would probably be a better idea, but that's just me, though. And I think more people would probably subscribe and purchase the pay-per-views if that was the case. But it is the regular price, $39.99 on Honor Club for tomorrow anyway. We'll have to see going forward. I know there are only a few Ring of Honor pay-per-views a year, but we'll have to see if this is a permanent thing now about them being on Honor Club. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. And that's all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in tonight. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, or you can leave your feedback on tonight's episode of Impact and Ring of Honor in the comment section on Spreaker, YouTube, or whichever website you listen to on. And hope to be back tomorrow night with 360 Wrestling Fanatic, talking all about Friday Night SmackDown, Rampage, and Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view. And since it is a pay-per-view day tomorrow, I'll preview Death Before Dishonor on the Friday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. So stay tuned for that. Remember all the social media as well. Instagram, 360 Wrestling Podcast. Twitter, at 360 Wrestling Pod. Facebook, 360 Wrestling Podcast. Even though I don't post or update on there as much as I should. On Twitter, though, it is set up to post the episodes right when they're uploaded, or if I do go live. And speaking of that, tomorrow is a pay-per-view night, so I might go live tomorrow night for 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Unless something comes up, I might just do that. So stay tuned. Until tomorrow morning for JMWF, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.